And at this time, I would like to call General Services Committee together. And we're going to have a presentation on Winter Recreation Plan, SE Group, and Jackie Mahoney.
Thank you. Dayton, are you on? Sorry about that. So Dayton is the head of SE Group, and he is the one that's been working on our winter recreation plan. And he's going to take you through where we are to date. So also that we can discuss the next phase as far as the next 80K Smart Growth Grant application.
Everybody doing okay? Let's take it from here. Everybody get me? Good. Thumbs up. I don't know if people can hear me. Okay, great. Just so you know, your audio is a little choppy on my end, so say something, say it loudly. Make sure I hear it. I'll do my best to lead in. So thank you for the introduction, Jackie. I'll try to keep this, point, and I'll share my screen here to walk you all through what we've been doing for this non-motorized winter recreation plan. And so this is what we want to walk through in just a few minutes today. Right? I want to let you guys know what the overview of the goals of this whole project is, the process by which we've built a plan, give you a quick tour through the major recommendations of the plan, because what is a plan but ideas for the future. And then also really talk about how, as Jackie's mentioning with the 80K Smart Growth Grant, these plans are crucial in establishing funding resources for any public project, and in this case, it's winter recreation, but it can be in many other avenues as well. So I'll go through, sorry, is there a question there before I jump into the presentation? Okay, and I'll get going, but feel free to interrupt me if there's something that comes up or you have a question. I'll definitely try to preserve some time for that at the end. So, the goals of this project, this is really focused, it's a county winter recreation plan, but we're focusing on the Commons Trail network right here at the border of the park. And a lot of this is coming out of, funded by an 80K Smart Growth Grant, how this land owned by the county and surrounding state lands should sort of coordinate its uses back and forth to, make positive use of the future. And really looking at, you're already a destination across the globe for motorized winter recreation, but this is really trying to expand that opportunity beyond just motorsports into non-motorized recreation as well, and really define a space for that. We're looking at a family-friendly opportunities here, which is sometimes a really unique option because everyone focuses their winter recreation in the challenging mountainous terrain, and what you're offered in the Commons is something really unique and different. And we're also really looking into this too to spell out, how is this going to get maintained by the county? What are the grooming needs? And what's a really logical set of trails? Because there's a lot in summer ATV use, but do we groom all of those or a subset, and what makes the most sense? So let's jump in here. For anyone that hasn't been staring at these maps constantly for the last number of months, like Jackie and I have, this is our site. The areas outlined in green is county on Glen. You can see the dashed lines, the existing ATV trail and road network there. Light pink being the existing snowmobile routes through the area. Brantingham's off map just to the north. This parcel is county land, Singing Waters campground. And then these light green areas, both here in the center and to the lower left, these are state lands that this plan is sort of integrating and coordinating with. And then the brown peas are the existing trailheads. Currently, though, in the wintertime, this one is the only one that's open, right? But these are your existing trailheads. And also the little assets of sort of the campsites that you have on your trail network are also identified on this map. So that's the quick overview of where we're looking. And then what this plan has done is, the reason the plan, I think, is important to unlock this state funding and other funding resources is this is really our demonstration that we've been listening to the community. I don't get hired to come in and build a plan for anybody because I'm brilliant. I know how to do this. that would be a little bit of a fool's errand because it's your community. And so we do this by getting right now to listening to the community. And this slide here, just because it's kind of the winter and the summer engagement efforts that we did. And not only did we host these at the Pine Tree Inn, have community conversations, have one-on-one dialogue, as well as sitting at Brantingham Station for coffee in the morning with passerby, and really getting that direct input from people. But we know that no matter where we host a meeting or when we host a meeting, not everybody can be there at once. And so each of these seasonal engagements were paired with an online public survey asking a lot of the same questions. And so in the end, kind of put the sum down at the bottom there, is we've got over 215 survey responses and 41 direct conversations influencing this plan. And that's really where we're taking direction from, as well as expert awareness of what it takes to build a good winter recreation destination and overall public recreation sites. And so when we put this sort of together, these are some of the key themes that we're taking forward into the plan, right? Is that there's a desire for expansion of what the trail system offers. There's definitely a recognition that wayfinding is not always clear. If you know how to get around the Commons network, but if you don't, it's really intimidating to get started. I was really impressed, I think, compared to some places that I've interacted where there's a lot of tension between the motorsports users and non-motorsports users. There can be a lot of use conflict. Frankly, I didn't uncover nearly as much of that in Lewis County, and I think your communities can be commended for that. But there's still some of that about concern about sort of the overlay, the noise from a snow machine, and the people looking for a quiet backcountry ski. And so play well together, but looking for that, and also recognizing that you guys are doing a great job capturing economic development from the motorsports industry, but there is a whole nother bucket of economic development that can be tapped into for ski races, for hiking experiences, for backcountry lodging. So there's more there that could be pursued. And this is, and I think a lot of the things we heard from the community too is just make sure it's taken care of well and don't bite off more than you can chew. And over again, we heard desires about it being something family friendly, beginner friendly. How do we get started? I'm new to cross country skiing. How would this work, right? So these are the things we heard. And in the plan, there's a lot more than this, but I'm trying to keep this to kind of a quick presentation for everyone. I'm dividing these into near-term and mid/long-term buckets. And you'll see in a final draft of this plan, we'll articulate this a little more clearly. But there's this list, and don't worry, there's more than just words here. So I'm not going to read these all to you because I have them on maps, and I'll walk through kind of what these recommendations look like. Near term, number one is update and improve wayfinding. I can't point to that on the map because it's all over the map. But it's going to really help people reach any access points. And the beautiful part about this is though this is a winter recreation plan, that wayfinding recommendation has benefits year round. There's no little winter only signage. This should be signage year round. Then we've also making recommendations for things, we're coordinating closely with Jackie and her team and understand that there's already conversations underway with private landowners here, and a plan is a great place to present, hey, we're doing hard work already to expand this. Let's put it in our plan so that it's documented as part of something we're doing. But expanding the trail network to county-owned lands north of here. A great recommendation coming out of this right away is when we started talking about access is, we came out to the site the first time and toured the winter trailhead here. I got to ride a snowmobile my first time. That was excellent. Thank you, Ryan and Jackie. But as we did that, we recognized that, when we had to get back to Brantingham, there's a big, long, roundabout way to drive there. And Brantingham has a trailhead access, which is great to get to in the summer, but there's about 400 to 500 feet of unplowed road here. And so a direct kind of recommendation is that in the near term, if you can open up this northern trailhead, there's an entire sort of northern half of the community surrounding this resource that's going to have much better access to it. And then one of the key recommendations here is that you have, as you can see on this map, if we compare it, slide back really quick, to all the trails on your site, you see us really selecting a key set. And that's done really intentionally to create a small series of stacked cross-country skiing loops that will be straightforward to groom, won't be required to groom every single piece in the system, and establish kind of a really clear and easily navigable network of trails, no matter what side you start on. And then we have a number of recommendations for improvements to the southern trailhead, just in terms of amenities that can benefit four-season access. That could be as simple as portalets and wayfinding signage, and it could be as complicated as really some better definition to the actual parking area, so that there's designated trailer or bus parking and designated single occupancy vehicle parking. So then again, in near term, this plan is also not coming with improved or wayfinding signage and closing the book on it and walking away. We're also working to deliver actual designs and details for your signage, including one of our next steps we're working on this week and next is building a map that shows these types of signage from major kiosks to major intersection signs to minor intersection signs we see as 2B here, and then small markers, whether on posts or put by trees, to say you're on the right trail. We're going to provide recommendations for where these signs can go and the details needed to actually get them built and implemented. And then a plan should really also set the compass far ahead and really provide an aspirational document that maybe you don't get to every single thing in the plan, and that's okay, but far better have it in your plan as a desire and aspiration of the community than to let it go and never ever have that opportunity, right? Because when the funding arises, it's in your plan, you get it funded. If it's not in your plan, probably won't. So some of those ideas here is that this entire site, when we look at places that really attract a lot of use, that build themselves as a destination, and that draw new audiences to a region for winter recreation, a lot of times it is this public art and private partnerships. So this plan is going to include recommendations for working with local artists to build an art walk loop through the county land. It could be an attraction for anybody, no matter their skill set, no matter their age, no matter whether they're interested in motorsports or non-motorized. It would be an amazing thing to go see. We think about the private partnerships. Once you have a cross-country skiing route developed, are there concessionaire opportunities for vending food? Are there concessionaire opportunities for renting skis? These are all things that could happen out of your existing trailhead infrastructure and with the right partnerships in place. And then we also look at opportunities to enhance backcountry amenities. We're going to make recommendations about how these sites can kind of serve as more destination attractions, possibly even winter camping. And again, these are long-term improvements. These are not intended to be the next year's project, but something to work towards. And if this place ever does become much of a destination, and right now you have such ample parking, I think in the winter, that between southern and northern trailheads, and those are both open, you'll be set for a while. But if this really worked, and some of these other recommendations that would really build like a unique destination here at the Commons, like building an ice ribbon and having a sinuous winding ice trail going through your area, you have a recreation site on flat land, which is actually somewhat unique in our region. And being able to build an ice ribbon there would be something that I think you have to go to Canada to get to the nearest one. And if it really got popular, thinking about having a third trailhead, we've identified the spots in this northeastern parcel would be ideal for additional access as needed. So the plan will have some recommendations there. And then the middle and long term also looks to how do we use these lands, how will this be leveraged with the state lands? And the biggest thinking is that the center parcel would be used as connectors to really connect across this network and not really have a hole in it the same way, just to provide more opportunities for different loops to suit different experience abilities. And then the southwestern side, creating these, you'll notice on these maps, there's the dark blue recommending a cross-country ski trail network. And then the light green this is ungrouped. These are the trails that we would recommend marking, designating as destination winter trails, but no need to groom them, no need to spend time on that maintenance because it provides a different type of experience for a different type of user looking for a quiet snowshoe in the woods or able to use their skis without a track being laid down. And so something as users progress to provide that level, that ability to progress through different backcountry experiences. And then finally, if this really is to be a backcountry destination, I mentioned more that I'm impressed at Lewis County's ability to play well across motorized and non-motorized uses. But if this is really going to be a non-motorized destination and marketed as such, we thought that rerouting the snowmobile trail to Lowdale Road and making that be the future access so that you're not interrupting any snowmobile through access in this portion of the county, but you are pulling their use of that trailhead out so that it becomes something that you're not going there because I can't wait to go on an ice rink, go cross country skiing, and there's loud engines in the background. So those are some of the kind of the high level presentation of the middle and long term ideas. And again, this is just sort of some visuals that we've pulled from other places, lighting, and we're not talking about building big generators and running faucet power out to the site. Solar powered lighting, small generators can create incredible nighttime experiences that we've seen activate winter spaces. And this lower right is an image of an ice ribbon, which again, are things that people travel a long way to get to, and they require a lot of maintenance, dedicated upkeep, but can really serve as an attractor for the region. And so back to this 80K SMART grant that we know is open now. I mean, we're not putting finish on the plan yet. I'll kind of talk about those next steps, but we're getting close over the next couple months. And what our intention is that, we have materials in place right now to support grant writing in September that, we see these as like 3 really good low-hanging fruit that can be leveraged by this plan for future grants. And that's getting wayfinding signage designed and developed and installed on the ground, making sure that you have the right equipment to do a cross-country ski grooming loop this winter or next, and identifying where it makes sense to invest in small trailhead amenities, whether that's storage for county equipment, small warming huts, or simply the need we all have when we spend time outdoors, and a portalette with an aesthetic screen so that it's not just putting the porta-john down, but putting something that looks like a nice county rec site. So those are that is a quick overview. The whole document will take a lot longer than 15 minutes to read. But I just wanted to kind of give you that overview. And we're working with Jackie and her team really closely to do this in an iterative process, put a draft forward, make sure we're providing the information, whether that's a cost estimate or steps for the plan or funding partners together into these documents. We're going to have that ready for the first round of review in early September. And I think by November, we should be ready to say,
Is there any questions for Dayton or for myself? Thank you, Dayton. I really appreciate you taking the time to come today.
no, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we're going to have Kip Turk give us a presentation on Lewis County solid waste rate increases.
What'd you do to me? There we go. So we have a surcharge. You'll see it in your paperwork for the next meeting. We'll start with a surcharge. That is stuff that is hauled directly to Rodman, and we are increasing that by $6 a ton. Some of the direct haul has dropped off, so this is going to help us maintain our flow of cash in this level of trash. So we're going basically to $30 from $24 a ton. Any questions on that? Okay. The next is what's brought to the transfer station. We're currently at $103 a ton for C&D and MSW. We are moving that to $110 a ton. Okay. But that also encompasses the $4 a ton increase from Dank. So basically we're going to get the other 3. Okay. Tires, of course, are a major expense for us. So we're increasing a single tire from 5 to 6, a single tire with a rim from 7 to 8, and the bulk from $240 a ton to $260 a ton. These are the areas where we really feel we need to tighten. the cost for us. Any questions? Okay, that's all I have.
Kip,
Yep,
I do have a
yes,
question.
yes.
Did the dashboard help you determine this?
Yes, in a lot of ways it did. It's the dashboard still, I'm learning it yet, and it's very good. I got a lot of people that understand it better than I, but yeah, it did help.
Good.
Absolutely.
Glad to hear.
All right,
Thanks.
Thanks, Kip. Any other questions for Kip before I go on?
I just want to mention that it's probably going to be an annual thing. Those of us that went to the Dank tour up there, a lot of regulations are coming down on Dank and the landfill itself, and a lot of financial costs as far as closing their cells and holding money in reserve. And they're going to be passing that on in tipping fees. So we're just trying to slow, steady increases as opposed to letting it get behind us.
Thank you. At this time, I would like to approve the July 14th committee minutes. If there are no amendments, could I have a second? Thanks. Okay, at this time, we'll go into draft resolutions.
Actually, Andrea, I have one other thing. I'm
Oh.
sorry.
Go ahead.
It came up last minute. Yesterday, Jackie opened the Lee Golf Trail, which we've been waiting a couple of years to do. And it came out great. It's a fabulous trail. I recommend everybody get up there and ride it. I think it's going to be a really big hit. And also, we would like to see if there's interest for the legislators to do a side-by-side ride and see the trail themselves. So if there is interest, we'd like to put that together and invite everyone up there for a ride. Okay, great. We're gonna try to invite. I think Josh, you've already said Senator Walczyk would like to go, and I know our lobbyist in Albany said they would like to come down and see. We're trying to get people exposed to what ATVs mean here in Lewis County. So we can probably get the sheriff to come up with his budget. Yeah, yep, exactly. So I think it'll be a good event. So we'll try to get something put together and get sent out shortly.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, Tim. So are we ready for draft resolutions?
Okay. The first one I have is amending surcharge and direct haul fees for the solid waste department for 2026.
Any discussion? All in favor, say yes. Any opposed? Carried.
The next one is adopting local law number 6-2025, the 2025 amended local law regulating and permitting special events on county roads, trails, or other county property, and on any town roads and property where the town has opted in.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Carried.
Awarding the bid and authorizing agreement with Bronze Contracting LLC for demolition of collapsed and condemned structure at 1057 Ammon Road in West Leiden at a cost of $33,400 with funds coming from the HAL Capital Reserve.
Any discussion?
No, he never got back to me to do that, so that's why we had to go forward. I'm going to continue to work on them. We're going to demolish it, but if I can get them to agree to turn it over, then we have that to auction off.
Capital Reserve.
That's a capital fund that we have set up quite a number of years ago for projects like this, to environmental properties with environmental problems, cleanups, et cetera. And we actually put funding into it about a year and a half ago. We had some fund balance to distribute. So there's $300,000 or so in that fund approximately.
Burning through it.
All in favor, say aye. Any nays? Carried.
Authorizing the Department of Recreation, Forestry, and Parks to apply for up to $125,000 in Adirondack Park and Catskill Park Community Smart Growth Program funding, and if awarded, to authorize acceptance of the funds and enter into an agreement to implement Phase 1 of the Winter Recreational Trail Development Plan in areas within the Adirondack Park boundary.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any nays? Carried. There are no motions and there is no executive session. So I would ask for an adjournment, please. Thank you. Could I have a second? Thanks. We're adjourned.
Human Services Committee. Everyone received the minutes. I move to have them approved. Do I have a second? Vinnie? We have two presentations today, two 15-minute presentations. The Hospice House Opportunity, Jerry Care, Lewis County Health System, and Joanne Dickup and the Friends of Hospice. And the second one is federal budget changes impacting social services with Jenny Jones. So at this time, I'd call up the Hospice Health Opportunity, Joanne and Jerry.
We're going to go first. There's 4 of us. So thanks you for the opportunity to speak to this committee today about our vision for a hospice home in Lewis County. Friends of Lewis County Hospice believe there is a need for a peaceful place for end-of-life care for individuals who can no longer be cared for in their home. Currently, we are sending hospice patients to facilities in other counties because their care needs exceed what their families can manage, or they have no family to care for them. To tackle this issue, Fulch formed a subcommittee consisting of Marcia Zaire, Tina Pachkowski, Linda Nasher, and myself, Joanne Dickup. We will discuss what has been done so far in our current progress. They all have a part in this. You get to meet them all. We've had numerous conversations at our monthly board meetings, and plus we've put surveys, conducted a survey on our website. The survey, we received overwhelming support from those who responded. Our initial goal was to meet with Jerry Care, the CEO, who oversees the Lewis County Hospice Program, to share our ideas and collaborate with the hospice program. He was very receptive to the ideas and has been working with us throughout this process. I then reached out to the county manager and the chairman of the county legislature, and who formed an ad hoc committee for our hospice home. And we go from there. Tina Pachkowski.
Hi. The committee and Jerry met with the architectural firm of Bernier and Carr. At the meeting, they shared with us details of the project, details of the building, projected costs, and regulations that would need to be followed. We discussed new construction versus rehab of an existing building and the pros and cons of each. Their preference was a new build as it was cleaner. We discussed the possibility of a model building plan for a 4 and an 8-room facility. They indicated that having a location first is ideal for the layout, but they could provide us with a plan complete with specs and estimated cost. We entered into contract with BCA to have a preliminary plan drawn. The next logical step was to find a suitable location for the hospice house. The location needs to have public water and sewer, and ideally be in a quiet, peaceful area. Although, I've lost my place here. We had several locations in mind. They were either unavailable or unsuitable to meet our needs. At this point, we put the plans with BCA on hold. In the interim, our board members, along with Jerry Care, visited the Jefferson County Hospice Home. We were all very impressed with the facility and the staff. They took a lot of time to explain their operation and the planning that went into the layout of the home and the layout of the grounds. And I'll now turn it over to Marcia Zaire.
We did extensive feedback to gather more information about hospice care and setting up a home. We reached out to 12 locations throughout the region, including Syracuse, Utica, Seneca Falls, Spencerport, Naples, Clifton Springs, Jefferson County, Gloversville, Ithaca, Potsdam, Liverpool, and Rochester. We received helpful responses from 9 out of the 14. Our inquiries covered location, population, number of beds, number of patients per year, support and staffing, and ownership. They were very forthcoming with the information, some via email and others through personal phone calls. I compiled the demographics and found that most of these replies indicated that the majority were comfort care homes, not actual hospice houses, and they were supported mostly through donations and a small part through fundraising. We also learned that there are fewer regulations with a comfort care home compared to an actual hospice house, such as the one in Jefferson County, which is why there are more comfort care homes in these areas rather than hospice houses. Hospice houses are heavily regulated at both federal and state levels regarding licensing, conditions of participation, staffing, facility standards, and coverage. Comfort care homes often may have a more diverse range of regulations depending on their specific services, the type of facility they are, and the jurisdiction in which they operate. We made a visit to a comfort care home in Rome, the Abraham House in Rome. In April, we visited, and it's a 6-bed comfort care home. Dr. A.L. Shaheen, a local physician, recognized a gap in the existing services for individuals facing terminal illnesses in the area and donated his 2-bedroom Utica home to provide cost-free end-of-life care. In 2019, they expanded and opened a 6-bed community care facility in the neighboring community of Rome, which is the one we visited. This tour provided us with valuable insights into the operation and maintenance of such a facility. Gina Chacha, the CEO, guided us through the home and hosted a question and answer session where we learned the intricacies of managing a comfort care home. Their patients are referred to as guests, and the building felt very much like a personal home. It was a 2-story house with room for families to stay when needed. There is no cost to families or patients. The home is run entirely on donations and 2 fundraisers a year. They are able to serve patients and families as well as those who live alone or lack family support. They found that families are so grateful for the care given at the home that they become very generous donors. So after that visit, we decided it was time to make a decision regarding whether we wanted to have an actual hospice house or possibly a comfort care home. And after thoroughly reviewing all the responses and the information we gathered, we considered that would best serve the needs of Lewis County would be a comfort care type home. In a subsequent meeting with Mr. Kerr, the idea of a comfort care home emerged as a more appealing option for Lewis County. And Linda's going to tell you about a location that we found.
Hi, I'm Linda Knopfscher. As Joanne mentioned, we are looking for a safe and efficient building with a comfortable home environment in a quiet location for Lewis County hospice patients and their families to enjoy. We have found a building located at 9502 Church Street in Casterland. It is located at the end of Church Street, surrounded by trees. It's a quiet location, peaceful with minimal traffic. I grew up in Casterland and my family owned a dairy farm on that land, around that land. In later years, my brother sold the parcel to New York State. It's a nice area. This building was constructed about 10 years ago by New York State for the Office of People with Developmental Disabilities, OPWDD, and is managed through the New York State Office of General Services, which is OGS. However, this building has been vacant for about 5 years due to the lack of staffing. I've had conversations with Heidi Lehman, who's Castellan Village Mayor, and Robert Gruner, the village clerk. They are anxious to have this building used again. Heidi Lehman reached out to me in the fall of 2024 to inquire about our intentions for this building. Once she heard our vision, she offered to do everything possible to assist us with getting a site tour. Many thanks to Cassandra Buell and sending emails to Gregory Roberts with the OPWDD, and he arranged a tour for our committee, Jerry Kayer, Cassandra, and Grace Metzler. The building is designed as a medical building, and it is ranch style with all the rooms on one floor. It has a full basement, which houses 2 propane heaters, 3 hot water heaters, central air conditioning, an Electrolux vacuum system, shelving, and storage for supplies. It did not look like groundwater had ever appeared in the basement. However, it has a built-in sub pump in the cellar floor that automatically will start, and it will send an alarm to the Cashland Fire Department in an emergency situation. It has an attached sun porch, attached double garage that can house transport vehicles with a covered walkway into the house. It has a full U-shaped kitchen, dining room, and living room. There are rooms for offices and bedrooms for up to 10 patients with bathrooms. There is a huge bathroom big enough to house a patient on a hospital bed. Cable internet access is available in all the rooms. There's locked cabinets, cupboards throughout the building that will hold specific medical supplies. The property is landscaped around the building, but does need attention with some branch tree removal. Many of us who toured the Casterland property were reminded of the Jefferson County Hospice Home. The building appears to be in excellent shape as New York State has been maintaining it. However, if New York State decides they can't afford to maintain it in the future, we're very concerned it will come up for public auction. There is a process that New York State Office of General Services must follow since they are responsible for the sale of state-owned real estate property that is no longer needed. The process is, first, the OPWDD has to declare this property as a surplus, as no longer needed for their operations. OGS will poll other state agencies and municipalities to see if they have any interest in acquiring the property. If there's no interest from governmental entities, the property will be appraised to determine its market value, and a minimum bid will be set. A public auction will be conducted with open and/or sealed bids. So it is essential that we all work together with New York State and the OGS to acquire this building as soon as possible. According to Senator Walczak, it appears the easiest and most efficient way to acquire this property is to transfer the building to another county agency. So we are asking our county legislators, the Lewis County Health System with Jerry Kayer, Assemblyman Blankenbush, Senator Walczak, for assistance in helping the transition from the New York State Office of General Services to another county entity, preferably the Lewis County Health System. We, the Fulch Board of Directors, have all the same vision for a future hospice home. Our organization has 2 fundraising events a year for this purpose. Each year, we give the Lewis County Hospice Program a large donation, $125,000 to $250,000, depending, and we want to continue that support to them each year. Over the years, our organization has been very efficient in investing our funds with the intentions to start a future hospice home in Lewis County. With that being said, Fulch is willing to support this process in any way possible to make our vision happen. Thank you.
Covered it all. We have, like she said, we met with Senator Walczak. He fully supports this. We met with the ad hoc committee after we met with Senator Walczak, and Tim suggested that we come and give a presentation so you all could understand what we've done and where we would like to go. And yes, we do need your help in having this vision come true, not just for us, but for all of Lewis County. Jerry's going to give his, but is there any questions for you from us, or do you want to wait till the end of the presentation?
Yeah, let's wait to the end.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, thank you. the Friends of Lewis County Hospice, Friends of Lewis County Hospice Executive Committee did a wonderful job laying out what has occurred over the past year. That's how long we've been meeting. So I've put together a reflection. Can we go that way? Or can I control it from here? Oh. All right, thank you. So I want to point out really the title, Comfort Care Home in Lewis County. When we started meeting a year plus ago, we were very focused on a traditional hospice facility. And it's been interesting where we've landed. The team is led by Mr. Levicker of District 7, the county manager, the Friends of Lewis County Hospice, DSS, Community Services, Public Health, the health system, and hospice. That's our home-based hospice program. And the next few slides just help to put in context. These are the number of visits for our organization, for the hospice organization. The numbers don't really matter, but it's more about the trend line. And you can see if you start on the right margin, go to the left a little bit, you'll see a meaningful drop. That reflects a period of time of the COVID pandemic. And then you can see from then, we have gotten back to where we were pre-COVID. So there are members of our community who are accessing hospice care who would benefit from, the work of the committee. So in 2024, so it's a 12-month period, there were 69 patients admitted to the Lewis County Hospice Program. There were a total of 78 patients served in that fiscal year. So you're wondering, 69 patients, but we served 78. Those who were admitted in 23 who were served increased the total number to 78. We had 1,122 patient visits, or 94 a month. The average length of days on our program in 24 was 33.6 days. Now, interestingly, in the country, the average length of stay in 2024 was 92 days for Medicare patients. That's the average. Though the median length of stay was 17 to 24 days. So what that highlights is many people received care for a much shorter period of time than a longer period of time. And in the world of hospice, that matters. The idea is to support the patient and their family. And the number of times, and it happens frequently, where someone is admitted into service, but they stay days or a couple of weeks. If those lives could have been picked up sooner, then both the patient going through that process and their family could have had a different experience. So in 2025, so for 7 months, we've admitted 46 patients, 54 have been served. The patient visits, 786, so 128 a month, and the average length on service is 27.5. So that's not a good thing. Based on what I shared in 24, we were at 33.6 days. And in 25, we're at 27.5. And it just simply means they're coming in later than they should. So what are the essentials? We want a place to call home. And the Friends did a nice job talking through that whole process. I have visited the Casterland property, and it is it isn't state surplus yet, and frankly, that's why there's a question mark. We're trying to avoid that. The Friends have been very supportive of hospice care in our community, and have expressed an interest in continuing that support. So we have the underpinnings of the financial model. The health system would be the organizational home if all agree. In the short term, I would see 2 to 6 beds for the Comfort Care Home, but as was shared with you earlier, it could grow to 10. We also envision a model where we would engage with a not-for-profit agency for day-to-day operations. And that's because of their model. And the model is really about coming home, living in a home, and then being supported through a community hospice service. So like our program in the health system, we go into people's homes, and that's what would continue to happen. So the services provided housing, a place to live, and that's why the regulations are dramatically different. They are regulated as though it was like say a 2-apartment building. It's those levels of regulations that would govern this structure. And then the health system would be responsible for the hospice support, which is Medicare funded. So the financial support of the model is really driven by being able to acquire the building at the lowest possible cost and being able to provide the hospice support. And we would continue billing the Medicare program to cover the services delivered and then paying it forward. And it is really remarkable that such a thing can work, and the growth of the Abraham House demonstrates that it can. Memorial donations, planned giving, and grants. Guests and family members may provide reasonable financial compensation dependent upon their individual ability to pay, but they are not required to. So what would be the next steps? Well, we would need your support, the legislators and the executive team of the county, to move forward with the Comfort Care Home. I believe it was 2 board meetings ago, I did a high-level overview with the Board of Managers, and they supported my continued involvement in this project. I think we would need to develop an advisory committee that is made up of a different group of people, some of the same, than the current team that's been put together as we've worked through this over the last year. We should come forward with pro forma financial documents, being very clear how the numbers will work. I think we need to continue to work on solidifying external financial support. And what that means for me is to make sure we continue to have a strong support by the Friends of Lewis County Hospice. And let's dedicate some time to pursuing grants and other gifts to support the house. I would see us formalizing the relationship with the Abraham House. And let's develop a community plan. And what that means for me is, how can we further educate the community as to what this program is and what it can be for them? So with that, we'll take your questions. Yes.
If they declare it a surplus, what are you looking at for a time frame on going through the state legislature, the whole process involved of getting it to the point where it is able to be purchased or transferred to the county?
I don't know if I can be real specific with you. Our goal would be to have it transferred, and then it becomes part of the county operations. In such a manner, we would not have to bring forward the resources that could eventually be used to support the service line. This area is a little new for me, but I would anticipate a few months to work through that process. Now, the good news is some of our local officials have expressed support. There have already been contacts with the state of New York, not by me, but by the team. And so I think if we can get through this step, getting it through the Board of Legislators, we fine tune our plan and build a timeline. And I don't think it's out of the question that we could achieve it by year end if we're singularly focused on this as the goal. Joanne, would there be anything you would add to that?
No, I think we have to support as the senator and I'm sure the assemblyman. And your support is essential. And I talked to Scott Doyle, and he is willing to, when a resolution, is there, he will pass that too. And I think that we all, as Linda said, Heidi and the Village of Casterland is for that too. So I don't think you're going to get any opposition from the town of Denmark or the Village of Casterland.
My next question would be the Abraham House. Could you get into a bit more depth on how that how they work? Are they going to send people here? Are they going to train our people to do this? Will there be a contract that we have to maintain with them? How does that go forward?
They have a model that they hire their own people. They vet their own people. They hire their own people. They call them guests. And they take care of all that. They take care of the food, everything like that. And that's through donations. And it's, if anybody wants to go visit, we'd be willing to talk to Gina and set up, she's more than willing to set up a tour. It's just it's a really good model. And that's what kind of, focused us from building something to this, that where, it's less regulations. Comfort care, yes.
So it would be a memorandum of understanding, and they would have complete operational control, make hiring decisions, firing decisions. They would take care of the operational expenses as part of that. We would, like most landlord-tenant relationships, would be responsible for the building. And then if everyone agreed and felt like it should be within the portfolio of the health system, we would have the facilities capability to support the needs of the building, do the appropriate inspections and work with the county and that sort of thing. So we would be structured to pick up that task. And we have a mechanism to report, right? So we have a board of managers. That would be our level of governance. And then as needed, we would report to the Board of Legislators. The ownership would be the county. Day-to-day management would be the not-for-profit. And the area of management responsibility would fall with the health system.
Right. They have Abraham House has a memorandum of understanding with Oneida. Their situation was unique because the 2-bed that they have in Oneida County was donated. And this house that they have in Rome was donated to them to expand. But they are looking to expand into, different counties. And I think, didn't Gina say 10? There were 10 maybe that they were very interested in. So
you've had the conversation with them. They are interested in pursuing that.
very interested. Yep, they're very interested in, figuring out something. And if you want to meet with, Gina, she's more than willing to come up here, give a presentation, whatever you need her to do. She's.
What I want to say is I hope this comes to fruition one way or another. And I want to commend you, Hospice, and all the people that work there. You guys do a job that's just
Thank you.
wonderful. The county does need some.
We try.
Now, the model we're talking about is slightly nuanced from the model they have now. Because the models they have now, they own the properties and they report to a board of directors. So this would be a variation on that, which I think is completely doable. And so we just have to work through, the shared understanding that is needed to make something like this work. But, when they came up, they expressed a strong interest in continuing to work with us.
Yes, she still does. I talked to her the other day. And I said, well, we're going to be doing a presentation, so we'll kind of get the idea more where, things maybe are going, so.
What do you need from us at this point? You need a letter of support from the legislature, or?
Well, what we need from you is we need you to use your contacts with Senator Walczyk and Assemblyman Blankenbush and Tim and go to okay, I'm going to get this right, OPDWW, and ask them to transfer, to vacate this, send it to OGS so that we need you to go through that process. We can't do that.
Joanne, I've already reached out to the governor's office. Alison Webinaro is working very diligently to get this transfer to happen. Also spoke with Senator Walzig's office and Assemblyman Blankenbush's, and all three of those entities are communicating about how quickly they can try to get this declared surplus and over to us. So.
To your question, Larry, I think a resolution that supports the health system, working with the Friends of Lewis County Hospice, and moving forward with acquiring, the property that needs to be acquired so we can bring the model home. And I know Joan can fine tune what I just said, but that's in essence what we're trying to
I
do.
already have it done.
All right.
And give one to the town of Denmark so that they can, they can do their resolution, and the village of Gasterland, and make sure they get, because he said, yes, you get me something and I'll run it through my board. So
The more process will happen.
Yeah, I'd like to add on to Jerry and Joanne, Vinnie's comment. I think it's a great model. There's 8 individual entities all working together for one common goal. And I think it'll happen. And with that, I would like to make a motion to build a resolution to support this initiative, to move it forward with the county support.
thank you.
Vinnie? Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't have a question, but I just want to publicly acknowledge the work of the Friends of Lewis County. I've been here 8 years, and very shortly, if they continue their support of our home-based service, we will hit $1 million worth of financial support over that time. That doesn't happen by accident. That happens because a group of people came together and had a purpose and a mission and stayed committed to that. So I'm very grateful to Joanne, the executive committee, and all the members of the Friends. And I think the other part of all of this is they are committed to working with others, and whether it's the county or the Abraham House or all the different people who make up the team. So I think this is a special opportunity, and grateful to them and grateful for your support.
Yeah, thank you. Next presentation, federal budget
Tom,
changes
just a point of
impacting.
order. You made a motion, there was a second, but we need to have a vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carried. Jenny?
Thanks. I'm just waiting for Connor got my presentation up. This is nowhere near as exciting or as hopeful as a hospice house, but my goal today would try to give you some information that excludes the hype and the social media spins about HR1 and some of the effects that are hitting your Department of Social Services. All right, so we know that the budget changes are shifting, and they're going to shift costs and responsibilities to counties, very much so. Right now, we're facing a rising demand in our services and reduced federal support, primarily in SNAP, Medicaid, HEAP, housing, and healthcare programs are at risk for substantial funding changes. So I need you to be prepared for these fiscal pressures that are going to hit. And there's different timelines associated with that. So one of the big ones is SNAP, which is Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, formerly known as food stamps, right? So the federal share is going to drop from 50% of my administrative costs to only covering 25% of my administrative costs in October of 26. Y'all know I've been with the county for a very long time, and it's been 50% the entire time I've worked for the department. So
That cost shift will be about $165,000 when that commences in October of 26. One of the bigger problems is the benefit cost shift. So for the entirety of food stamps, since it was created, the federal government has picked up the entire cost of SNAP benefits. Starting in federal fiscal year 28, they will no longer do that. And the amount that the states will have to pay is based on things like error rates, timeliness, and other quality measures that they look at. So I anticipate that'll be another $310,000 for Lewis County. Right now, we have over 1,500 cases. That's 1,500 households on SNAP, encompassing almost 3,000 people in our county. And we pushed out $5.6 million in benefits last year alone. Now, the way they're going to calculate how much the county shares will be. So if you're paying attention, I first said state share, and then I said county share, because New York State is going to pass that share, that shift to the county. New York State is not going to pick up the cost of the benefits. And SNAP is a very large program. So that's just benefits and administration. Part of what we have to do with SNAP is we have to look at work requirements. And there are currently work requirements already in the SNAP program. Right now, we have a able-bodied without dependent waiver in New York State. And that's a lot of words that mean certain categories of people have different work requirements. Right now, people aged 18 to 59 that don't have a young kid at home have to work. Okay, we look at things like that. That's going to expand and move the upper end to age 64. So I anticipate about another 360 cases will be swept in to having to meet work requirements. There's also been a lot of exemptions around that about work requirements. So some of them is, what is a dependent child? That's always been someone that has a child in the household under age of 14. That's going to increase to age 18. So anybody that has a kid 18 and under, or excuse me, 18 and over will have to work. Homelessness has been an exemption for a very long time. It's very hard to meet work requirements when you're homeless and you have no transportation, and sometimes even bathing is hard. But homelessness is now removed. They're removing an exemption for veterans. Veterans have been exempted for a very long time from work requirements, and those are now removed. And under age of 24 and exited foster care at 18. So that means if I have a kid in foster care that turns 18 and they say, hey, I don't want to be in foster care anymore, I'm going to try to make it on my own. They didn't have these massive work requirements until they were age 24, but that's been exempted. Now it's at age 18. Other SNAP changes. Effective almost immediately at the end of next month, SNAP education funding has been eliminated. So right now we have a contract with Cornell Cooperative Extension, and they do SNAP education throughout the Bi-County region. That ends September 30th. What they do is educate SNAP recipients or anybody that appears at their training classes, they don't ask, how to prepare food that is nutritious on a very limited income and budget, usually using very restrictive food types. About 5 different ingredients is what they really look at. And then there's been a lot of restrictions added to the Thrifty Food Plan. The Thrifty Food Plan determines the amount of SNAP benefit levels that are given. And they always look at something called a market basket. So basically, what would a market basket of food cost per person? Well, they've limited what that market basket will look like. They've tied it to cost neutrality, and we anticipate there'll be about $1.40 per day reduction in benefits per person. So it'll reduce the amount of benefits that households receive. Think about that based on the last time you walked into the grocery store. I don't know about you, but I shop very differently today than I did about 2 years ago, right? Food is very expensive, so it's going to reduce that. And then they made some changes to immigrant eligibility. So there's been some other exclusions around immigrants that were here that were victims of being trafficked, human trafficking, and those fleeing persecution from certain countries, and those were removed. Other changes come around for HEAP. So low-income HEAP, you're probably well aware of. And right now in Lewis County, last year, we put out about 2.25 million in HEAP benefits to our local vendors, well, even including National Grid. And it affects about 2,500 people just in Lewis County. And right now, in the second bullet, you'll see unknown, because I don't know what the appropriation is. It was in the president's budget, it was completely eliminated. In the Senate Appropriations Committee, they've appropriated $4 billion across the nation, but that has not received full approval through the House yet. So we don't know what our appropriations are. What that could mean is conversations with OTDA. We could see things such as no heating repair and replacement program. So right now we use HEAP money, which is 100% federal, when people qualify and they need their furnace replaced. So if someone comes in and I don't have a heating repair and replacement program, if they qualify under temporary assistance, they would get that. We would pay for it through temporary assistance with a high local share. So it's a cost shift to the local district. Clean and tune. Right now we pay for furnaces for people to be cleaned and tuned, to be efficient, to use less fuel oil and all, and make sure they're safe. That's one of the programs that would be potentially eliminated depending on the funding. The cooling program, if you paid attention to my monthly reports, you probably saw we closed the cooling program early this year. Next year, we may not have one. So cooling, although it sounds like a luxury, cooling was always tied to a medical need. So people had to submit to us medical documentation, meet income criteria, and then we could help with air conditioners. So think about someone like with MS, where the heat would completely exacerbate their situation. So that program could be on the chopping block. And right now, I don't know. I don't know what to staff up even for the fall at this point. I have on there heat and eat. That's a word we use at DSS. And heat and eat allows us to use the cost of utilities as an income reduction in order to help with SNAP. So SNAP and HEAP go together a lot. We call it heat and eat because we can use the cost of utilities to increase your SNAP benefit, but that's being eliminated as well. And that will hit primarily those, that'll hit elderly and disabled hard. They're big heat and eat. Medicaid. So we've heard most, I think, in the news about Medicaid and the massive changes to Medicaid that are going to happen. So you should know right now there's about a little over 6,700 individuals on Medicaid in Lewis County. 2,000 of them at DSS and 4,700 on the New York State Exchange. So the exchange, also known as the New York State of Health. And those are not primarily, they're all people that are working. So effective 1/1/27, able-bodied adults 19 to 64 will have to work 80 hours a month, at least in the month before their eligibility redetermination. Right now, that's annually. That's going to be moved to every 6 months. Okay, so you have to be able to track that, because not only is it work, it's work-like. It could be you're in college, tracking attendance at school, could be volunteer hours, could be anything like that. So tracking that becomes very difficult. And those work hours are different than SNAP ABOD work hours that are different than work hours for temporary assistance. So all three programs will have different amounts of work. And increased eligibility renewals every 6 months. So that's a high burden to reprove everything every 6 months. Higher out-of-pocket costs for incomes. So right now, you know, the out-of-pocket cost is low, but there's talk of a $35 cost share for non-primary care services. A big one here is the reduced retroactive coverage from 90 days to 30 days. So think about someone that perhaps needs skilled nursing facility placement. And we have 100 and something up at the hospital right now. We have a 160 bed Lewis County Health System nursing home. So you're not feeling well, you're sick, you've had your stroke, life's not going good, and perhaps you need long-term care placement. It takes a while to get your documents together, to get someone to help you get your documents together and apply. So right now, we can go back 3 months prior, because when people are ill, it takes a while to figure out how to get all this done, or if you're even going to need it. Reducing from 90 to 30 days is a very big deal. So that means even if you get all your stuff in, I'll only be able to look at the 30 days of medical bills prior, not the 90 days of medical bills. And those could be incredibly large bills. All right, immigrant eligibility is now limited to US citizens, lawful permanent residents, and a few other categories. And that doesn't sound like a big thing, but it was just last week. There was certain Cuban and Haitian immigrants that were removed from eligibility. So they're changing who gets what. But I want you to think about Medicaid too, as to what does Medicaid cover? I referenced skilled nursing facility, but 60% of all mental health services provided are provided by Medicaid and paid for by Medicaid. 2/3 of all substance use disorder is paid for by Medicaid. So all those services Anna Plotz is making sure is working really hard and available in our county are paid for by Medicaid. You heard our friends of hospice talk about an OPWDD house that is now vacant because they can't staff it. Most OPWDD placements are paid for by Medicaid. So, and that'll follow wherever the county the person's from. But those costs are covered by Medicaid and other things are. So we know of kids in school that are on Medicaid and they maybe get PT and OT or speech. If they're on Medicaid, they can bill that back. That could change. EI bills back for Medicaid as well. So Medicaid covers a lot of things. New York has been an expert in really figuring out how Medicaid works and how to bill it the best. A few other things to think about is the loss of tax credits. And these have been, hotly debated, right? Tax credits, whether you must have insurance to get your tax credits or not. That was all part of the ACA many years ago. But those tax credits help people that get things like Essential Plan, Child Health Plus. And the loss of those tax credits will increase costs for those on the Essential Plan. I don't know about you, but I'm surprised about that number. I just pulled that yesterday. There's 1,651 people in Lewis County that receive their health insurance through the Essential Plan. I will tell you, some of those are county employees. And I know that because they've disclosed to me that they went off county health insurance and onto the Essential Plan. We also have 1,091 children on Child Health Plus. And these are the programs that are going to lose a lot of money through the state. So things like HR 1 talks about extreme caps on healthcare provider tax arrangements. And that's what New York State does. They tax like managed care plans so that they have revenue in order to pay it out through health insurance. So the tax credits are going to affect about half of all those that are enrolled. And a good portion of them might actually be Medicaid eligible. And remember, we have a county cap and we pay a good portion of Medicaid anyway. But New York State is currently estimating a loss just in this of $7.5 billion annually. So that's a lot of money, 7.5 billion. And in order to get it, they're going to have to get it from someplace, or they cut people off and we go back to higher uninsured rates. So they would anticipate about 730,000 people losing coverage. All right, DISH payments, disproportionate share hospital. If you have questions, I'll defer to Jeff Hellinger, who's sitting in the audience at some point. But DISH payments go to hospitals, right? They're reporting a reduction of $8 billion every year for the next 3 years in a row. And I mean 8 billion one year, add another 8 the next, and an 8 the next. And what we do know is when DISH payments go down, IGT payments go up. So that's a funding mechanism for hospitals. And reduced in the enhanced federal Medicaid participation for states that cover legal immigrants. We know New York State, not my decision, New York State's decision to cover legal immigrants is there. So that there will be a reduction in federal Medicaid participation for legally entered immigrants. And they expect that to be at about $1.5 billion annually. Housing, not necessarily provided by DSS, although we do have some housing programs. We expect an emergency shelter grant funding program to be consolidated with changes to the assistance limits, like how long they might be able to help a homeless person pay rent for a few months. But we don't have any specifics on that yet. So once we have specifics, I'll share those. I wanted you all to be aware of a Section 8 freeze. That freeze was placed in February of 2024, and it's directly correlated to the high price of housing. Section 8 is run through HUD, and that freeze has been going on for quite some time. We were at a 98, 99% lease rate. So if you think of Section 8, most of you probably think of a voucher, and it's helping someone pay their rent. So they're only paying 30% of their income toward their rent. Right now, because the length of time and as people move or they forget to recertify or whatever happens, maybe their income goes up and they're not eligible. That's great. But we can't put any new people on Section 8 housing because of the freeze. Right now, pardon me, we're down to 225 vouchers. We're at a 70.1% lease rate. So that is a $1.8 million program in Lewis County that's definitely shrinking, helping our local landlords and people. And right now we have 287 people on a wait list for Section 8 housing vouchers. So I think the theme that you're hearing from me all the way through is everything's getting tighter, right? Harder to get benefits. There'll be less when you get them, and there'll be more paperwork to do to comply with them. Office for Aging, Carla did share with me that $35,000 was eliminated for the high cap program. So that's, most of you are aware of free health insurance counseling, and they served 921 people in Lewis County last year and saved over $115,000. That's a pretty good bang on the buck right there. Save 115 and spend 35. But that program has been eliminated as well. So I think we'll see more and more of that. Timelines are somewhat confusing and conflicting. So until we get, very specific regulations, but I wanted you to be aware those cuts are really significant of what we're all going to face. And the administrative burden on the Department of Social Service workers will be higher. Tracking employment-related activities is not easy work to do. And if someone comes in and they're on public assistance, they get Medicaid and they get SNAP, and none of those three work rules equal each other. They're all different. So even for us to learn how to implement them will be difficult. Do you have any questions for me? Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Jenny. Move on to draft resolutions. Cassandra.
Okay, the first one is appropriating funds for program year 2025 for the period April 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2027, per the notice of obligatory authority for $28,420.15.
Any discussion? All in favor? Carried.
Authorizing an MOU between Lewis County Community Services Department and Jefferson County Community Services Department for a bi-county mobile crisis program as outlined by the New York State Office of Mental Health, and $370,000 as Lewis County's share of state aid startup funds for contracted services by Children's Home of Jefferson County and managing and operating the bi-county mobile crisis program for a 20-month period.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Okay, authorizing an agreement between Lewis County Department of Social Services and caregivers to designate qualified personal care aides to provide personal care services as defined in New York State Department of Health regulations for eligible DSS clients, with the cost to be billed to Medicaid.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Carried.
Authorizing agreement between Lewis County Department of Social Services and TIPCO Automatic Systems LLC for AI virtual assistant software at a cost of $45,800 to design, configure, integrate, test, train, and deploy EVA Phone, EVA Interview, and EVA Companion.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I got a question. This is more for Connor. I'm a boomer. I don't understand a lot of stuff. What does AI do that regular computers can't do?
I'll try to give you the 2-minute as I understand it. So the artificial intelligence in this case would be they're using a lot of computers to create very lifelike sounding voices to be on the other end of phone calls. And then they're able to very quickly process audio information. So the caller is calling in, they're able to, without any human intervention, have a bunch of machines running logic to understand what that person needs, and then either spit back out and information that's useful for that person, or to connect them to a human caller if they can't understand what the person needs. So in this case, you're using artificial intelligence, you're using computers to replace maybe the amount of human effort needed to field phone calls.
Now, is AI different from department to department?
The application of computers and artificial intelligence will definitely vary from department to department.
So eventually we have to see every department have an AI if we're going to go for AI versus actual human beings in place. I don't mean to put you on the spot like that, but is that a hypothetical?
Yeah, I want to be careful how I answer it because there's a lot of different technical nuance to it, but certainly there are specific applications of AI for different departments. Some of it is more widespread, where we might be able to implement something centrally that can be used by multiple departments because it's maybe generally helpful for most people. But where people are finding most value is, I have a specific use case, I can eliminate this many hours of human work by having a machine do it for me.
If I might, I want to make it clear, this is going on Department of Social Services network, which is a state-run network.
Okay.
So it doesn't interface or cross over to the county, except in one instance, and that's on the phone system, since the county owns our phone
So that'll
system.
be with the phone system.
Yeah, that'll be the integration there. But this is step one in moving forward. I actually have to submit plans to the federal government and the state government because of the use of AI in order to help us answer and triage phones, those
They
kind
have
of
to
things.
approve your whatever.
Right.
They were just
And
authorizing
at this
that.
point, none of the AI will permeate, I can't speak today, sorry, permeate into our system. So I can't go, let's say, Mr. Nortz, you're on SNAP benefits, and AI truthfully could answer the phone and say, and you want to say, well, how much are my SNAP benefits this month? If it could go into the record, it could answer that question and say, you get X amount of benefits. Right now, the federal government doesn't allow us to do that yet, right? Because AI is kind of new and scary, but we're going to use it for phone. Companion sits on our desktops in our eligibility units, and Companion will be able to answer questions, you know, just kind of like you use Copilot or Perplexity or any AI on your phone now. But what it hosts and has learned is all the state and federal regulations related to Medicaid, SNAP, HEAP, and public assistance. And if you know our work, it's always complicated. And
Those seem to be changing as the wind blows anyways. Yeah.
yeah, so it might be nice to be able to ask a question and get the answer every time. And then the other EVA is rights and responsibilities. And we have these very scripted things we have to tell clients about their rights and responsibilities when they're on any kind of public benefits. Part of that is you have to report to us. That's your responsibility. Your rights are we don't discriminate based on age, sex, creed, all those things. And it's a script. And Eva would read that script. The client will hit a prompt that they heard all their rights and responsibilities, and it'll return the phone call back to the eligibility examiner. So the whole idea is efficiency and time savings. Y'all know we're turning people over up there, so we got to be efficient. So, yeah, that's what that's for.
Any other discussions on that? All in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Any other business for the Human Services Committee? I need a motion to adjourn. Second. Barry? We are adjourned.
Call the Finance and Rules Committee to order. First thing I got, I'll make a motion to approve the July 14th minutes unless there are any amendments to them. Do I have a second? Vinnie, all in favor? Aye. The minutes are approved. We have a couple presentations. The first one is a micro transit plan through our community development program. Turn it over.
Hello. My name is Tiffany Sadowski. I'm the Community Development Program Specialist. For those of you who don't know me, I oversee public transportation here in the county. Last November, we were awarded a $100,000 grant through NYSERDA administered Clean Mobility Program for a microtransit study and the creation of a microtransit plan. We were partnered with the planning firm Stantec to complete the project. The final draft of the plan will be finished in September, just in time for us to apply for round 2 of the grant to secure funds for implementation, ensuring that the costs are still net zero to the county. Ashley Thompson from Stantec is with us today virtually, and she's going to give you an overview of the findings.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. As Tiffany said, I'm with Stantec. I'm Ashley Thompson, and I've had the pleasure of working with her and Cassie in your public transportation department to work through this microtransit service that is being proposed for your county. The agenda here, just real quick, we're going to go through the project and that NYSERDA program that Tiffany talked about, an overview of that, the public engagement that we conducted, the service profile that we're recommending, a mobility hub that's part of that microtransit service, and then show you a little bit of the cost estimate, and then we can open it up to Q&A for you all. And so this program that Tiffany mentioned, it's the NYSERDA Clean Mobility Program, and like she said, we're in this planning track here that should be wrapping up in the next few weeks, along with 28 other projects in the state of New York. And then this plan that we're developing will help set you all up for success in your demonstration track application, which just recently opened. And they'll award up to $3 million for a zero emissions or EV related project. So you can kind of see the scope of the types of vehicles that we were looking at, and the services that we can offer, sort of with these multimodal aspects all the way to an on-demand electric vehicle service, which is more in line with what we're proposing for Lewis County. So these are the project steps, just starting out in March and working its way through September with the existing conditions analysis, looking at the microtransit options, the feasibility of it, and the implementation. And again, that plan will be wrapped up in a couple weeks. And then talking about community engagement, so we've had a few touch points over the last few months, a couple with the transportation task force in April, and then I believe again in July. And then we also interviewed 8 stakeholders, which some of them were involved in that task force, but really having those candid one-on-one discussions with them. And then we opened up a county-wide survey as well, and all of it really was around identifying challenges or gaps in the service. And then how microtransit might help fill those gaps for you. And looking at those interviews, we asked questions around, again, those gaps, maybe what the key destinations are that people are trying to get to in the county right now where it may be difficult to access with transit. And then that survey, it was really well responded to. So way to go, Lewis County. You had 219 responses. And we distributed that online and paper copies as well, especially at some of your social services buildings or event spaces. And it was also submitted through the transit app as well. So most respondents, they live in Lewis County, over half were in Wallville, and 21% were under sort of this $25,000 income threshold, meaning potentially a disadvantaged community. So looking at really the main takeaway here from the surveys and from the stakeholder engagement was there needs to be a more flexible transit option other than the fixed route service, really flexible in timing as well as location. So how do we get folks from the far outreaches of the county using transit? And then how are we reaching people for sort of last minute or daily needs or nights and weekends outside of the two offerings of the fixed route service in the morning and afternoon or evening? And then also for the survey respondents, well over half, so the majority of folks said that they would use this service at least once a week, which was great to hear. So it seems like it would be very well utilized if deployed. And the main locations that were, or destinations that were identified were in and around Lowville, but then also some of the other villages sort of south of located southernly in the county, and then sort of destinations scattered about as well throughout the county. So this is what we're offering here, or recommending as the service profile. So we would have, if we're offering or recommending a phased approach. So this phase 1 partial coverage, it kind of mimics the existing bus route in this one single zone. And that really reflects sort of the key destinations that you saw on the previous slide that we found through public engagement, as well as looking at what the existing dial-a-ride, those key destinations that are being served. This kind of overlays on top of all of that analysis. And just, it's really, it would be a duration of a year to a year and a half, and it would need about 3 vehicles in order to operate in this area for that door-to-door service. And it's showing that the pickup window, so the moment that you may call with, if you're within this zone, that you may call for the microtransit to come and pick you up, it will come and get you within 20 minutes of you calling. So that's really helping with that last minute on-demand service that's being requested in the county. And it's a phased approach because really it's a new service, very new to Lewis County, especially considering you all don't have like even Uber or Lyft or taxis or things like that. And so having a duration where you can really work out the kinks, get the public involved and really excited about it and using it, some widespread adoption, as well as just figuring out really what the demand is and where the demand is, and then right sizing your service for that. But then after that initial, year to a year and a half, we're recommending the full county coverage and breaking that down into these 3 zones. So you have a northern zone, a central zone, and then the southern zone. And what this is showing, it's a little confusing, but if you are in the northern zone, you can travel anywhere within the northern zone. If you're in the central zone, anywhere within it, southern, anywhere within it. And then if you are traveling within the northern and central zone, you can travel anywhere within those 2 zones on one trip. You can travel anywhere between the central and southern zone on one trip. The only time it gets tricky is if you are trying to travel from like the northernmost parts of the county down to the southernmost parts. It just doesn't make sense to have one vehicle make that entire trip. And so there's a transfer point that we are recommending in Lawville to make sure that we're still reaching everyone, but that if you are going from a northernmost point, then you have to transfer to a different microtransit vehicle in Lawville and then continue on your journey to the southern point there. And with this service, that pickup window is looking at from the moment that you call, you will be served within 30 minutes, you'll get picked up. And so that really is on par with other, micro or rideshare services like Uber and Lyft. It's comparable to that wait time. And then I know this is a lot of text, so I'm not going to go through all this, but the operation models that we looked at, there's really 3. It's the turnkey option, where it's owned and operated completely by a third-party vendor. The plug and play, which is more so all of the responsibility is on the county agency. And then there are different variations of a hybrid option that you all can explore, where you're taking on different degrees of responsibility as the county or as the vendor. So it may be owned, vehicles could, and charging infrastructure could be owned by the county and then operated by a third-party vendor. That's an example. And then with the vehicles, we contacted a lot of the vendors that are out there that work in this space. And Tiffany also attended a workshop that NYSERDA put on that connected us with a bunch of these vendors as well to have further discussions with them as we go into the next phase of rollout of the plan. And then the vehicles, we did a market study and it showed that you don't need full scale buses to make this work. And you also need something bigger than like a minivan or a sedan. And so we're really recommending like a large van or a cutaway bus, leaning more towards the large van and the flexibilities that that offers for routing. And then the mobility hub here, it's being suggested, this is that transfer point. Again, if you're going from like the northernmost part of the county to the southernmost, you would have to transfer at this location. And it's at the social services building off of Stowe Street, just south of downtown Lawville. And it would have a heated shelter with a booking kiosk and restrooms. And it's also connecting out to an existing bus stop that with safe connections with crosswalks and things like that to just make sure that this is all integrating well together. And then for the cost estimate, which is what many of you may have been waiting to see, this is the really, so we have two options that we're looking at. It's that hybrid option where you would likely, the county would purchase the vehicles and the charging infrastructure, and then would operate for a 3-year period, which is really what the NYSERDA Clean Mobility Program is looking at, like a 3-year pilot. And that would be about $4.1 million for the operations and purchase of vehicles. And then that turnkey model where everything falls on the vendor to operate and own, that's a little over $4.8 million. As a reminder, this NYSERDA Clean Mobility Program, it will fund up to $3 million. So that's a difference of 1.1 to 1.8. And also we've already asked, and the state has said that this qualifies for the 5311 funding and STOA state funds as well to cover that gap. And I also just want to say quickly on this, this is what like a long-term model would look like, but we have also seen many vendors be willing to negotiate price for a 1, 2, 3-year contract, something like that. So you could see this cost go down in an initial phase, but we just want you all to be aware of what like the full long-term service would cost. You know, you might get a deal for now, but just understand that this is what you're looking at long-term. And that's it. Thank you.
Anybody have any questions at this time?
I do.
Okay.
So you gave the costs for 3 years. What happens after 3 years? I mean, we get a grant.
I'm sorry.
We get a grant and you basically say it's paying for most of it. And then we're eligible for other ones. And that's for a 3-year period. What happens after 3 years?
That is a great question. And that's where the additional funding would have to come in for a longer term service. And so the hope also is that those prices that I showed for a 3-year term, that it would be actually cheaper for the first 1, 2, 3 years if you can negotiate that with a vendor. But yeah, that price tag that you saw would be after the 3 years. That's probably what you are looking at. So you would need to explore other options. I don't know, Tiffany, if you want to answer that.
Yeah, so we've already reached out to NYSDOT and determined that we can use our 5311 funds just like we do for our current transit system to cover the costs. And with the full-size van, we'd also be eligible for STOA funding from the state. So that's exactly how our program is funded now. So that would just fall under the same umbrella.
So is it free to the county then?
Yes, essentially.
Okay.
Yeah, if we would keep our net zero budget like we have now for public transportation, this would fall in the same category.
Do people pay to ride this system?
Yes. Yep. So the fares would be comparable to our dial ride system that we currently have.
Which is?
Right now it's double the price of the bus fare. So wherever you're going. So if you're going from Lowville to Krogan, right now on the bus, it's $3. On dial ride, it's $6. So it would be comparable to that.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anything else? If not, thank you very much. Next, we have a discussion on on the JCC Education Center and the Jack Bullock Junior Education Center.
At the end of the committee meeting, after we do resolutions, we'll go into executive session to discuss any of the financial details. But I did want to, for the sake of the public, know that we're talking about this conversation, just open it up as a conversation publicly, that JCC has approached us, BOCES has approached us about purchasing the JCC building. They would like to exchange the Boak Educational Center, and then the details of the financial compensation and the difference in value we can get into in executive session. But I wanted to just broach that. BOCES has laid out for us a very large vision of what they see the educational facility up there. Obviously, they have also purchased the Maple Ridge Center. So that's really the driving force here. The Boak Center, our primary, our thought process is we need parking for the county employees, and that would help that. Also, if the transaction were to take place, we could have a discussion about, with all the legislators, about what would your top priorities be for the use of that building and how would we go there. So I'll just open it up to you guys, but that's kind of the format of what's been laid out to us.
Yeah, I'd like to just make a comment to begin with. I went on the tour over at the other center, and I'm not sure what I expected, but I was impressed with the condition of the building. It appeared to be very well maintained and in good condition. One of my bigger questions is that besides the parking idea, to help with our parking for employees, what would we do with the building? We've got to give some thought to that. I know there was some talk about public health moving into it. There's a lot of space there. It's right in the middle of Lowville, and it could be beneficial, but just beneficial in what aspect?
I agree with Tom. I was impressed with the Boak building as well. Something that really excites me is the expansion in BOCES and the development of a workforce that we need here in Lewis County. So I think it's a great opportunity for both parties to partner on this and to look towards the future. Something that I wasn't thinking of, what's JCC's role in this? What do they think about?
Well, I can answer that, preliminarily, and we can talk about it more in executive session, but I do know that BOCES and has been in touch with JCC president to let them know of what they're looking to do and how they're looking to expand. BOCES intends to have JCC continue to run programs there. So I think that relationship and the three partner relationship will continue, and JCC will have a presence there. But clearly, BOCES is the one who has been using the facility most and needs to expand some of their programs there. But JCC will still be part of it.
I would also say when the building was built up there, the JCC facility, the idea was to enhance educational opportunity for residents of Lewis County. The timing was not great. The building got built, COVID hit, the enrollment at JCC decreased dramatically, and they've been struggling to hold classes there. That's where they formed the partnership with BOCES because their enrollment has gone up dramatically. And so they've been working together really well to kind of keep the building occupied.
One comment I'd like to bring up, we're expecting that there could be some criticism towards the county that we built this building and why do we want to give up ownership of it. But keeping in mind the thought that the building was built for educational advancement, and if it continues on that theme with BOCES owning it rather than the county, I think it only makes sense because we're still continuing to pursue what the intent of the building was, and whoever the ownership is really is secondary to, as long as we follow that purpose.
I see the Fair Board has first right of a refusal. Did they get their letter yet, their 30-day notice?
No, because we're not even at any contract, we're just at discussion stage. I'm sure that there's many of those members probably know about it.
I also see that you can't remove the track up there. So how much can they really do building wise?
I don't know what BOCES I don't know if they're intending to expand that building. I don't think they are. They have the Maple Ridge Center as well, so I don't know what their intention is, but I know they have thoughts about how to use the properties together. And I don't think they want to eliminate the track either.
My thoughts are that the facility they're buying already from Maple Ridge is 61 acres. We could let them develop that and still rent them our building. And if they get that developed, I mean, later on, we could sell it to them and they could find another buyer for this building. Because I know we were talking about blacktopping out behind the building and parking there too. I got thinking about that. That's going to put a lot of water down towards like the Methodist church, the surrounding area, the Jeb's restaurant. I mean, that could be a problem.
I would say, Barry, the only concern I have about us holding the JCC building for a long term, and I've been a little worried about this for a while, is that exactly what you said, BOCES could build a campus up there on the Maple Ridge, choose to leave that building, and then, or I'm sorry, BOCES could choose to leave, and JCC has already said they really are struggling to hold classes there, and we could be holding on to a building with no tenants, and that's been a little bit of a concern of mine, that we could end up with a liability up there.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Tim. Tom and I went to the strategic plan. What was that last year, Tom? And you know, that was the topic. It's underutilized, and you know, as JCC's enrollment goes down and BOCES is going up, they need a facility, and we could be standing there with an empty building if we don't take advantage of this. So I look at it as not stepping over a dollar to pick up a dime.
But we could end up with a building in Laval that's empty the same way. I mean, so we could develop our own JCC building into something that we could use. I mean, and it's a lot newer. It's not a flat roof.
I see it as the vision of taking care of our youth and developing a workforce, though.
But they have 61 acres developed. That is a lot. There is land for sale next to them. 45 acres, Ross's land is up for sale or would be up for sale. So it's not like we're stopping them from developing anything. And that chunk of land is probably, that could help the Fair Board a lot with their parking issues. And we're helping two organizations now. We're helping JCC, or we're helping BOCES, and we're helping the Fair Board. They need to expand at some point too. And I mean, I've had several members talk to me about it.
Any other thoughts on it at this time?
When we were up there, didn't they discuss they wanted to move most of all BOCES processes up to the JCC building if they get it? Wasn't that the discussion? That both the BOAC and the Glenfield School would eventually move up there?
I believe that their conversation is that the special education programs would move down to Glenfield and that the CTE programs would move up there. I believe that's the long-term vision.
Because I knew they were talking about changing them.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they would not be abandoning that facility down there. It just, they'd have two different campuses for different purposes.
Anything else at this time?
I think also on part of the discussion, if I remember correctly, was that BOCES had the ability to build a second campus in Jefferson County and avoid avoid this building or not utilize this building at all. So there's also a risk there that if this deal falls through and they can't obtain ownership, that they could decide to scuttle the whole thing and build it in Jefferson County.
Yeah, I heard some discussion on that too, that there was a chance that if this didn't work, they would possibly expand Jefferson County and we would end up with nothing here. So if that's all we've got right now, we'll move along.
Okay, two other things. One, I'd just like to remind everybody that tomorrow at 10 a.m. is the auction for the property tax auction is tomorrow at 10 a.m. And also when we go into executive session, we will be discussing a potential developer who has submitted a proposal for the Lions Falls School to develop that, and he is ready to go. So we'd like to kind of move on that.
Okay. If that's it, we'll move on to draft resolutions.
The first one is introductory local law 7-2025, a local law to authorize overriding the tax levy limit established by General Municipal Law 3C, aka the 2% tax cap for the Lewis County 2026 budget, and setting the public hearing for October 7th at 5:00 p.m.
This is one that we do every year, just in case. Any questions or comments?
Just that Tim said, no, not to worry about it. He's got it under control.
All in favor, aye? Opposed? Carried? No. Barry opposed? Carried?
Committing to appropriate $50,000 in matching funds toward the 2026 I Love New York promotional and marketing tourism campaign, and designating Naturally Lewis Incorporated as the county's agent to supervise and conduct the promotional and marketing programs by the Chamber of Commerce for Lewis County tourism under the 2026 campaign.
Any questions or comments at this time?
Yes. If we do this, do we have any, I wouldn't want to say over what kind of promotional material there is? Do we have seen we're committing this much money?
My understanding is that this money goes to the state and they match it and they promote the whole region, recognizing Lewis County, but it's promoted as a region and not just Lewis County individually.
Okay, so it doesn't go to Naturally Lewis, actually, it goes to the state?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the signs that you see with a little thing at the bottom, Lewis County on there, that flashes a little bit. Okay, thanks.
Can I comment there? The funds go to Naturally Lewis and them operating as our tourism promotion agency. It's been going on for many years. The dollar amount has not changed, I don't think, in many years. They spend the funds on things that they have to show the I Love New York logo and marketing and promotion. So it is money that they direct how it's used, but it does have to be used specifically for I Love New York types of marketing, and then the state matches it. And I think there's probably more specifics on how they can spend it and the types of things they can spend it on, which I don't know, but it is their money that they use locally that the state then matches the 50,000.
Anything else? All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? Carried?
Authorizing payment of the $7,500 appraisal service fee of DGM Kuhn and Company for the commercial appraisals performed and completed on the Lewis County JCC Ed Center and Jack J. Boak Jr. Ed Center.
Any questions or comments?
Just one question. What was the date of that or the time of that appraisal?
Joan, do you know that?
Not offhand, within the last couple of weeks.
So it was in the month of August?
The end of July, I mean, we
Okay,
requested it
within a month,
earlier.
within 30 days.
Yeah.
okay.
Never got the results until like 2-3 weeks ago. I think he's
We
been
didn't
working.
get the one on Voc until August, but the other one came in the last week of July or so. So I think I sent both of them to the board members.
Usually the buyer pays that.
We offered to have them both done under the county, and we'll make that adjustment with them if we negotiate anything when we talk to them further. But it just made more sense to have somebody do both of them, and we actually got a better price this way than having them done by two different entities.
Anything else? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Authorizing the continuation of the 1% additional tax on sales and uses of tangible personal property and of certain services on occupancy of hotel rooms and on amusement charges pursuant to Article 29 of the tax law of the state of New York for another 2 years, beginning December 1st, 2025, and ending November 30th, 2027.
This is the 1% that we've always had on there. It's not an additional.
That's correct.
So this
Any
is part of the,
question?
part of the home rule?
Right.
Okay.
Any questions or comments? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Authorizing the Lewis County Planning and Community Development Department to submit the application for Round 2 NYSERDA Clean Mobility Program funding in an amount not to exceed $3 million to implement projects identified on the recently completed Microtransit plan.
Any questions or comments at this time? All in favor, aye? Opposed? Carried.
Appropriating $27,000 to recognize revenue for real property department charges to municipalities following real property tax law 1537 for assessing and data collection services.
Any questions or comments on this? All in favor, aye? Opposed? Carried.
Setting the 2026 workers' compensation apportionment for Lewis County self-insurance plan as 50% experience-based, 30% payroll-based, and 20% proportionate full property valuation-based.
Any questions or comments? All in favor, aye? Carried.
And the last one is reappointing Candy Aiken as the Lewis County Director of Real Property for another 6-year term beginning on October 1st, 2025 through September 30th, 2032.
Any questions or comments? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. I think we've got a motion that Herb would like to bring up.
I would like to make a motion for the Board of Legislators to send a letter of support for the town of Diana's CON with Natural Bridge Rescue Squad.
Have a motion by Herb, seconded by Jeff. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. And I guess we have an executive session.
Yeah, so the executive session is to talk about two potential contract negotiations and the finances involved with it.
I'll make a motion that we move to executive session. Do I have a second? Vince, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We have moved into executive session.
I would ask that Matt O'Connor stay